Hi there. It's January the 13th, and as we make our way through the good news of Matthew, we are in Matthew chapter 9, and we're looking at verses 18 to 38. We very much get the impression here that Jesus is under great pressure from crowds. There's many people who are following him, and in the following him, there are all sorts of people trying to get to him, and that comes out in this series of stories here that Matthew tells us. First of all, there's the ruler of probably of a synagogue. We're told elsewhere he's the ruler of a synagogue. We're given his name elsewhere, but Matthew doesn't give him his name. He just says that he's a leader, and this leader comes and he says, "My daughter's dying, but if you come and lay hands on her, she'll live." And as Jesus is going, as Jesus is on his way to this emergency situation, there's a woman in the crowd. We're aware of the crowds coming, and this woman has a hemorrhage, and she reaches out to Jesus, says, "If I can only just touch the edge of his garment," and she touches the edge of his garment, and Jesus immediately turns around and he says to her, "Your faith has made you whole." And there's this impression of this is all happening as things are moving on, as the crowd are following him. And so he comes to the house of the leader, and everyone is crying and weeping. It's a scene of great noise and emotion. And Jesus actually takes them out. He takes people away from the situation so that he can be in quiet, so that he can be in peace. And he speaks to this little girl and he raises her up, and she is well again. But then as Jesus is on his way somewhere else, he has two blind men who shout after him, and they cry out, "Have mercy on us, eleison imas ye David, have mercy on us, son of David." Many churches still use these words, Kyrie eleison. Eleison is the word have mercy, take pity on us. And these two blind men are crying after Jesus, "Have mercy on us, son of David." Jesus actually goes into the house and they pursue him. So there's this constant picture here of this pursuit, of this pressure that Jesus is under. And Jesus says to them, "Do you believe I can do this?" They say yes. Jesus heals these men. And then the last person who we'll read of Jesus, having Jesus brought to him specifically, is a man who is dumb, and he is dumb because of a power, a force of evil, something out with him that is holding him. And Jesus casts it out. And people are amazed. They say, "Wow, we've never seen anything like this." The Pharisees, however, say Jesus is doing this by the power of evil. He's doing this by the power of the king of demons himself, which is a terrible accusation. But you can see how Jesus is the focus of so many eyes. And then it says Jesus heals all kinds of diseases. There's this amazing scene of Jesus dealing with all kinds of illness and all kinds of problems. And right at the end of this chapter, the end of chapter 9, it says that Jesus looks on the crowds and he has compassion on them. Now this word compassion is very deep, very key. In the Greek language, it's splanchnizomai is the word, and it's actually linked similarly to a word in Hebrew, rechamim, which has to do with the innards. It has to do with the guts and the intestines. It's like Jesus' stomach turned over within him when he sees what's going on. He sees the people around him who are so desperate for healing, so desperate and in need, and yet are like sheep without a shepherd. They've been scattered. And he's thinking, of course, here, this is Israel he's looking at. And Matthew, being a Jew, is speaking to Jews and saying, look, as Israel has been scattered instead of being the people we should have been. And here is the Messiah who's come. But then at the end of this chapter, Jesus appeals, particularly to his disciples, and he says, pray that the Lord sends out workers. In other words, I can't do this all myself. As one physical person, Jesus says, I can't heal everything. I can't heal every person. So pray that the Lord sends out workers into the harvest, because the harvest, you can see, the harvest is plentiful. People are crying out for help. People are crying out in their need. We obviously hear Jesus speaking these words to us, that we are not here just to make our lives more comfortable and to follow a religious program. We're here to bring his good news of release, his good news of healing to people, to often people who are desperate in their need. And Jesus has the ability to do that. By the power of his Spirit, he's gifted us as well, so that we can reach out and touch, as he did, those who are in need for the sake of his kingdom. Have a very good January 13th.